Coming up on Quays.
Calls for police to take hate crime more seriously after a rise in homophobic attacks in Greater Manchester.
After the death of cricketer Philip Hughes, does the sport need to be made safer?
Christmas has arrived in Manchester as Coca-Cola unveils this year's Christmas truck. Good afternoon, welcome to Quays.
Manchester's gay village has seen incidents of violent attacks recently on members of the public who've ended up badly injured. Jim Scott's been down to Canal Street to see whether hate crime is becoming an increasing problem in the city.
An increase in homophobic hate crime has led to some uncertainty in the gay community about their safety and whether they feel confident enough to report it. A recent incident on Canal Street involving a player for an LGBT rugby team has led to uncertainty amongst the community in Manchester. The 24-year-old player was promoting his team when he was attacked and left with a broken jaw. The chairman of Manchester Village Spartans told me what happened on that night.
But we were just walking along Canal Street. Most of the guys had kind of carried on walking. Were further up the street, so they weren't there when it happened. There was only 2 or 3 of us there when it happened. We just stopped to talk to a group of guys and see if they were interested in playing rugby. We're just having a normal chat, and then really pretty much out of nowhere there was kind of one homophobic comment and then a big swinging punch.
The attack on Tom comes almost 3 weeks after 2 young men were assaulted as they got off a tram and walked down Canal Street singing songs from a musical. With recent events in mind, I asked members of the community what they thought about hate crime.
And it's terrible. It's the worst thing around. I don't think it should be there at all. Each to their own at the end of the day. You live one life, you might as well live it to the full.
In general, people are getting more acceptance of the gay scene, so it's starting to die out, hopefully.
I don't actually feel that the police take it seriously, because on both occasions when I reported it, nobody actually came to interview me or ask for a statement.
This year, counting in January to October, there has been 278 violent offences motivated by someone's sexuality. That's almost 50 more reported cases than there was last year. Greater Manchester Police said they are improving training for officers to deal with hate crime. Jim Scott, Quays TV News, Canal Street.
5 days on from the death of Australian cricketer Philip Hughes, questions are being asked about safety in the sport. Inzi Rashid has been to Old Trafford to find out the reaction of Lancashire's county cricket club's players and coaching staff.
Philip Hughes, taken from life in his prime. He died playing the sport he loved, cricket. The 25-year-old was wearing a helmet when he was struck by a ball, but it crashed into an exposed part of his neck, inflicting massive damage.
Well, I think everyone would agree it's a terrible tragedy for his family, obviously in particular his friends, and of course the cricketing world as well. But ultimately, whether he's playing cricket or not, a young man in the prime of his life has lost his life, and it's sad.
Once the grief subsides, the cricket community will take a long, hard look at safety. But the focus is primarily around the equipment and not the laws of the game. Here at Lancashire County Cricket Club, they look to improve the design of helmets to ensure that a freak accident like this doesn't occur again.
This incident will have brought it into sharp focus, and there may be a need to look at the integrity of helmets over a period of time, and to make not just recommendations, but if a helmet may have a lifespan, and to know what that lifespan is. So all these sort of things are considerations. Whether the game's safer, I think it potentially can be safer still following this incident.
England's captain Alistair Cook believes that cricket has never been safer and doesn't want to see the bouncer removed from the game. At grassroots level, some parents of young cricketers agree.
I don't think there needs to be any change in laws. I mean, for me, it's one of the sort of pinnacles of the sport, really, in terms of playing and batting against sort of fast, aggressive bowling.
At the Emirates Old Trafford, during training, players put out their bats to show a sign of solidarity and the way to share the sadness of the way he died. His colleagues and fans here in the Northwest will remember him in the baggy green cap of the country he represented and the sport he distinguished. Inzi Rashid, Quays News.
stories from around Greater Manchester today. The parents of murdered soldier Lee Rigby have backed a campaign for a named memorial tribute to their son. The plans are to erect a plaque near the spot in Woolwich where Lee was killed. The online campaign has already gathered over 3,000 signatures, but for it to be raised in Parliament, it needs to be signed over 100,000 times.
A passenger who cracked a jet window at 35,000 feet has admitted he deserves no sympathy and could be sent to jail. 43-year-old Nicholas Whitaker was on a Thompson Airways flight from Florida back to Manchester in May this year when he began to argue with his partner. The former bus driver said he was sorry for his actions but claimed to have no memory of the incident.
Manchester's new Gusto Italian restaurant will open to the public on Friday. Bosses have lavished £1.3 million on a Grade 2 listed building on Lloyd Street. The venue boasts a display kitchen and private dining room which can seat up to 12. A VIP launch will take place this Thursday. Now Joey's here today with all of the sport news.
Cheers, Alex. Now on to football, and it was another busy weekend for our non-league clubs. In the Conference Premier, Altrincham recorded a 2-1 win at home to Kidderminster, whilst there were defeats for both Chester and Macclesfield. In the Evo Stick Premier, Ashton United won 1-0 at home to Whitby, courtesy of a Jack Higgins goal despite being down to 10 men. In the Evo Stick First Division, Salford City made it 3 games unbeaten with a 1-0 win against Burscough, and Droylsden thrashed Prescott Cables 4-1. Hyde are through to the next round of the FA Trophy. They won 4-3 away at Tamworth. Stockport County also secured safe passage through with a 2-1 win against Colwyn Bay. Salford City are back in action tonight as they take on Ramsbottom United in the Dudson Cup, with manager Phil Power hinting he may rest some senior players. And FC United of Manchester are in action on Wednesday night. They take on Barwell in the FA Trophy third qualifying round replay at Beaufort. The winner of this tie will go on to play Harrogate in the first round proper of the non-league knockout competition. Back to you, Alex.
Thanks, Jerry. Now, as the Christmas season begins to ramp up some momentum, it is, of course, time for the Coca-Cola Christmas truck to make an appearance. Kimberly Harrison went down to the Trafford Centre in preparation for its arrival.
The Coca-Cola truck has been rolling merrily across the country, visiting cities and families around the globe. And now the people of Manchester have been given the chance to have a closer taste of its Christmas magic.
Thank you very much. For many years, the Coca-Cola truck has been an iconic view for the start of people's Christmas. And everyone around here today at the Trafford Centre is enjoying a refreshing drink from Santa himself. And what is it about the Coca-Cola truck that makes you feel like it's Christmas?
Just the magic of it. When I was a child, I was just saying on the way up, it's actually for the older generation. They're not so excited, but I really am.
We've just seen it from years on the telly. It's the start of Christmas for us all, so it gets in the Christmas mood.
It's just exciting. Just as soon as it comes on, you know Christmas is here.
Many queued in the cold to receive a photo with the famous vehicle, and were even lucky enough to meet some of Santa's helpers.
I think it's the advert every year, and you know it always changes every year, and it just excites people, and I love it. It's amazing. Like, it just makes you feel like really warm, and like everyone is like going, "Oh, Merry Christmas," and it's just a really nice job to do.
The advert was first broadcast on television in 1995, and 20 years later, it is still bringing fizz to this festive season. Kimberly Harrison, Quays TV News.
David is here to talk about some of the latest films. So David, you've seen 3 films. Can you start with The Drop?
Well, The Drop is a crime film set in New York, Brooklyn. And the drop of the title is sort of, it's a drop bar where sort of gangsters go and take the money and it's sort of picked up at a later date. But it is a crime drama. It's not really about sort of the gangster element. It's more sort of the sort of low life, average people just trying to sort of get a better life. It stars Tom Hardy, who is that sort of immersive in his roles. It's only after the film I realised that he played Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, so he's quite a completely different character here, so he's excellent. It also stars James Gandolfini in his final role. He unfortunately died last year, so this is the final chance people will have to see him, and I think that's the sort of real selling part of the film. It's a decent film, but for me it's not sort of remarkable in any way. It's just sort of an average drama. It's fine for a Friday night if you're looking to see something, but there are better films out there.
All right, thank you, David. And the other film you've seen this week?
Another film I've seen is 2001: A Space Odyssey. This is Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece from the 1960s. The BFI had done a sci-fi season, and central to that, they've re-released this at cinemas nationwide. It is, for me, perhaps the most essential film to see at the cinema this year. I always say that the cinema is the best place to watch films, but you don't necessarily have the best choice to watch. This is the best choice. It's absolutely pure visual cinema. It's not an easygoing film. It's quite difficult to follow in places. It's not really about the narrative at all, but just as something to watch at the cinema, there isn't anything better, really. It's on quite limited runs at the View and the Cineworld, so you'll have to check out the websites, but if you can see it, definitely go and see it.
OK, thank you, David. And now it's time to hand you over to Kate Troy with the weather.
It's the first week of December, and as a result of that, it's going to turn that little bit colder, with perhaps a frosty start. Behind it, a very nice day indeed, a mostly dry and bright afternoon with lots of sunny periods reaching highs of around 6 degrees. Moving on to Wednesday now with a foggy start. The sunshine slowly starts to creep in around midday, so you might not be needing them Christmas jumpers just quite yet.
Now, Alex, what mode of transport do you think of when Santa delivers your Christmas presents?
Well, I would have assumed it would be a sleigh, Rachel.
Well, if you've been out and about in Greater Manchester this week, you could be forgiven for thinking that. Giving up Rudolph and his friends to deliver presents on foot and on 2 wheels.
Yeah, well, in a moment we'll see how this year's Santa run went. But first, Hannah Smith joined the Vesperado Club on their festive ride.
It's that time of year again when everybody is getting into the festive spirit, and as the story goes, Santa delivers your presents on his scooter.
Riders and bikers from across the northwest rode into Pendlebury on Sunday for the 3rd annual Santa Scooter Run. With bikes decorated in true festive fashion, riders met for the short journey to the Christie Hospital to deliver presents to patients suffering from cancer this Christmas. The members of the Vesperados Scooter Club built a special-made sleigh just for the event, full of presents from generous riders. And Quays News managed to get a ride with Santa as his special helpers to lead the scooters all the way.
We set off with Santa on the way to Christie's, and the privileged seat in his sleigh with all of these lovely presents for all the children. Say hello, Santa!
Ho, ho, ho! The run gathered more and more scooters along the way, and it wasn't long before we arrived at the hospital, where people continued to donate presents to make someone's Christmas special this year.
These presents will be donated to as many patients as possible and staff. It's getting bigger and bigger every year. The Vesperados who organise this, they are fantastic. I mean, we've got cars, scooters, you can see all the presents behind you there, you know, they brought their own sleigh. It's getting bigger every year.
Good deed done, Manchester bikers have hung up their helmets. That is, until next year.
Annual Santa Fun Run has returned to Media City this year and is bigger and better than ever, with hundreds of Santas running 5k around the quays to raise money for charity. They started off with a warm-up class from mascot Percy the Penguin before lining up in the plaza outside the studios. The event saw hundreds of festive outfits and a flood of red in Media City. Everyone was welcome to join the race and no times or records were taken. Sports Tours International were behind arranging the event.
We've been organising it now for about 3 or 4 years, and each year it just gets bigger and bigger. So this is definitely the biggest we've had.
They also worked with the ceremonial mayor, who counted the runners in. People from all walks of life joined together to dash through Media City, whether old or young, and even some dogs joined in on the festive spirit. The money raised is to help support ITV's Tech Santa, which supports 6 different charities over Christmas.
With everyone coming together and wearing the same things and having a bit of fun with it, and young kids, old people, it brings everyone together to support one thing.
Supportive families watched from the sidelines while paramedics were on hand in case of injury.
Hopefully the money raised today will go towards making Christmas a little bit better for those less fortunate.
Medals and selection boxes were given at the end of the race to congratulate the Santas.
Tiring, but good weather for it, so I really enjoyed it today.
This is Emily Howitt for Quays TV News.
That's all we have time for on Quays today. Join us on Thursday for all the latest.
This Friday we have the first edition of our new sister programme, Friday First.
So join us then at the same time at 1:30 for the best of Quays.
See you later. Goodbye.